Yesterday, the Resonance Cascade kicked off a simultaneous alien refugee crisis, alien invasion, and government-committed genocide. But today, the real war for control of Black Mesa will begin. I'm the Loch Ness Mobster, and welcome to the Black Mesa incident. Yesterday, the Resonance Cascade occurred, opening a rift between Earth and Zen. The military showed up to contain and take control while executing mostly everyone, and two major plans were put underway to fix or escape the mess. Early this morning, they will come to fruition, but one more so than the other. Let's backtrack. So yesterday, Dr. Rosenberg, Dr. Simmons, and Dr. Walter Bennett constructed a plan to conduct a Zen relay teleportation to teleport them all outside the facility to safety, and sent one Barney Calhoun to Zen to activate a focal point where the relay to go through. I talked more of the specifics of how this teleportation method works in my lore video on teleportation methods in the Half-Life universe. Now, to explain this next part, I'm going to have to dip my toe back into the theoretical and the speculation, so bear with me. I have a suspicion that up until this point, the Nihilant knew very little or nothing at all about the situation in Black Mesa. I believe this because, until last night, there wasn't much mobilization of Zen's main forces. There were a few, but most likely there were just random teleportations. And Xenian grunts weren't actually seen at all until after tonight. What I think happened was that Black Mesa either wasn't known at all to the Nihilant and was just some random aliens accidentally disappearing, or perhaps he knew a little but wasn't really sending much to do anything with it. Like what was sent was only probing attacks with disposable slaves, maybe a gargantua or two, mantacraft. That changed, however, when Barney Calhoun showed up and killed several alien controllers and grunts while activating the focal point. And it may have provoked an increase in the power of alien scent, also the actual use of strategy, obviously meant to cause damage rather than just to probe the forces in Black Mesa. More evidence of this can be seen right as Barney leaves Zen, as at the exact same time, Dr. Richard Keller is performing his own resonance reversal alongside Dr. Gina Cross and Dr. Colette Green. Though the resonance reversal was successful, at first glance at least, this later proves not to be the case, as the Xenians are still teleporting in, and thus the rift is still open. As the scientists later today in the Lambda Complex will put it, the rift is still being maintained by a single powerful being, aka the Nihilant. From now on, the Nihilant's goals are indeed to invade and take over Black Mesa, and perhaps Earth as well, and more strategy is beginning to be employed. This will slowly erode on the HECU's grasp on Black Mesa, as until this point, you could say they kind of were the king of the hill for the first day. Aside from Barney and Freeman occasionally disrupting things, they've been mostly in control of the facility until this point. But they have not been quite dethroned yet, as at the crack of dawn this morning, Gordon Freeman will be apprehended by a group of HECU Marines, after they lay a trap for him. Unfortunately, for the HECU at least, the two caught him decided to dispose of the body in a garbage compactor without actually checking to make sure that he was dead, which he wasn't. He will regain consciousness later this morning and will escape and continue to fight. Meanwhile, as he is being apprehended though, Barney Calhoun and Dr. Rosenberg and company will finally get their teleporter working and will teleport outside of the facility this morning. On their way out, though not seen in-game, Barney will come into possession of the signature crowbar that Gordon used at the very start of his adventure until his apprehension, as it was likely left behind when his body was dumped into that garbage compactor. He will give him back this crowbar in Half-Life 2 20 years down the line. Now, since the resonance reversal hasn't exactly worked, at least in its intended purpose, the Lambda Complex team now has to drastically rethink their plan. It is unclear what happened to Dr. Keller, Dr. Green, and Dr. Cross immediately after the resonance reversal, but the latter two did fall unconscious right after being caught in a harmonic reflux after the reversal was carried out. Dr. Cross's body will be found dead in Zen by Adrian Shepard tomorrow, but that's tomorrow and it's unclear if she died today or what exactly happened. We do know that Dr. Colette Green was taken into custody by the G-Man, and Dr. Richard Keller's fate is unknown, but unfortunately he probably died. I mean, without the protection of Cross and Green, he is confined to a wheelchair, so unless he was rescued by later this afternoon, probably died. But back to the rest of the Lambda staff. They formulate a plan that the Nihilanth must be killed to close the rifts, and Dr. Gordon Freeman is likely the best candidate to do this. So they start tracking him today. He is forced to take some paths through the older industrial areas of Black Mesa, however, as the HECU are tracking him as well. This afternoon is when things really begin to heat up in Black Mesa. By now, the HECU have begun to get worn down by the Xenian troops, and if that wasn't bad enough, we see a new combatant enter the battle, Race X. Some background. Race X are not exactly there for refugee reasons like the Xenians are. They are there to invade. They, like the Combine, are also on a multiverse-spanning conquest, but they are interested in synths, you see. They want to terraform the Earth into a new homeworld exclusively for their species. They do this by building a portal to use to bring in the Gene Worm, a massive worm which, like a regular worm, eats and digests the soil and ultimately terraforms it into what it's like on Race X's homeworld. Rather than fusing technology with themselves like the Combine synths or the Xenian clone synth armies with B-guns, their military/society is based on a symbiotic relationship between all of them, and thus use a sort of bug/nest/hive mind pack mentality thing. Within their ranks are pit drones, which are disposable worker-type troops, which shoot stingers. Then shock troops, which are symbiotically connected to the shock roach, which they kind of use as a weapon that shoots electric particles at enemies. And lastly, there are the Voltigores, which are the tanks of Race X. Black Mesa had very little knowledge of the species before the incident. They did have some of them in the Biodome complex, but they still didn't have a big idea of what they were, hence why they named them Race X. Now, on the afternoon of Day 2, Race X will begin to trickle in slowly and take control. So now that Race X has also entered the fray, the weakened HECU are really becoming unable to put up an adequate resistance against all these aliens. They have even, in some areas, stopped executing scientists, and in fact, some scientists in the medical bay in Sector D1 are tending to many of the wounded soldiers. As a result of this, the command begins to send down orders to begin pulling out of the battle. And simultaneously, another military faction, the Black Ops, begin to get called in to tie up loose ends. As this begins, Corporal Adrian Shepard, who was knocked unconscious yesterday from his Osprey crash, finally wakes up in the infirmary I just mentioned, and is soon sent on his way to radio for help and to evacuate. This is, however, stopped by the G-Man himself, who prevents Shepard from boarding an Osprey for unknown reasons. Some scientists are evacuated alongside the soldiers, such as Dr. Isaac Kleiner, Dr. Eli Vance, and Dr. Arne Magnuson. Eli, during this, is given a military jacket, presumably for protection, as he will later prove to be a vital person. Also during the evacuation process, the G-Man himself, alongside a certain naysayer, implied to be Dr. Wallace Breen, Black Mesa's administrator, will rescue a young Alex Vance, Eli Vance's daughter, from Black Mesa, and deliver her to Eli. This, of course, as we see in Half-Life 2, was for a very important purpose. By the end of these evacuations, all of them, save the G-Man, will be away from Black Mesa, and to be seen again in the Half-Life 2 saga. As the evacuations conclude, the order is given out to forget about Freeman, as he is no longer the military's priority. At this time, Freeman has finally fought his way across the base to the Lambda complex. he does run into a group of Black Ops assassins who have made their way onto the scene. The Black Ops are working to kill just about everyone. Scientists, guards, Xenians, Race X, and now even HECU Marines who were left behind, as to continue the no witnesses doctrine. One such Marine who was left behind is Adrian Shepard, who continues to fight across the Black Mesa facility with no real goal, but is pointed in the general direction of finding Freeman and a potential evac point at the Lambda complex. It's also worth mentioning that right before he meets the Marines, he fights off a group of Black Ops who were disassembling a nuclear missile and stealing a nuclear warhead off of it. This will be important tomorrow. Meanwhile, Freeman, when he enters the Lambda complex, has to stop the Lambda core from going into meltdown, so he has to flood the core and then make his way up to the teleportation labs to meet with the scientists there, who send him to Zen. Adrian Shepard is in close pursuit behind him and actually sees him jump into the portal, but Shepard does not get to follow him as he has to go through a different portal as the main portal has become unstable. Shepard also is taken to Zen, but only uses it as a connection to go to the Black Mesa Hydrofauna and Biodome complex. And that's really the end of the day. Freeman is in Zen on to kill the Nihilan. Adrian Shepard is on the prowl in Black Mesa. The HECU are pulling out as Race X is beginning an invasion of its own, and the Black Ops are beginning to show up to pick up the pieces of the HECU's failures. Tomorrow, it will all end, but that's a story for tomorrow. This has been the Black Mesa Incident Day 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.